Well, hello. Gonna wait just a second here while people are coming in. All right. Hi, Susan. Hi, Patty. Okay. All right. We're getting people in. Great. All righty. Today we're gonna make knot rings. I'm not real proficient at it, but I've been goofing around with it, and I think they're kind of cute. And maybe they're not for everybody, but they're because they're kind of dainty. If you like dainty, that's cool. Or for younger girls, I think they're a nice little ring. So let's see. Hey, Wendy. Hi, Paula. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Marianne. All right. Hi, Antoinette. Okay. Hi, Gina. Yeah, there's 1,400 group members now, which is awesome. Um, I'll take more. I'm greedy, but no, I'm real pleased. I think that's great. Um, Okay, so I'm going to show you the rings that I'm going to do today are 16 gauge wire. I'm going to use copper and I'm also going to use sterling silver. I have not tried it with fine silver. Um, I'm not sure how it would hold up. I guess I should do one just to see. It's I just would be afraid that I would melt it all. So I was thinking sterling silver is probably the way to go. Um, let's see. All right. So, like I said, I'm making them 16 gauge. I did initially try 18 gauge. I thought it was a little bit too thin, but there again, it all depends on what you like. I mean, that's really dainty, the 18 gauge. The 16 gauge I have on my finger right here. I don't know if you can see that. Let me pull that off. This is the 16 gauge. And the thing um, with these knot rings, I don't know if you can tell, but one of the loops goes over and one goes under. So the part that goes over, it kind of makes like a little hump right here. It's not perfectly rounded right here, but I think that's the nature of the beast. Um, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I just noticed that it's not a completely round ring right in this area. The other thing, I did not solder the two wires together, but I suppose you could do that if you wanted to. But they stay together nicely just as they are. But there again, that's an option that's up to you if you wanted to solder those wires closed. Okay. This is one in copper that I put a patina on. Just dipped it in liver of sulfur and then cleaned it up with steel wool. I like this one a lot. I'm not real fond of the shiny copper, but whatever floats your boat. So that's that's the eight or no, this is the 16 gauge in copper that's antiqued. And also this one is a silver that I put the liver of sulfur on there as well. So you can just kind of change it up however you like. Those are the three examples that I have. Okay. Um, yeah, soldering could add some strength, Patty. You're right. That's true. Um, Nancy says, I thought you were doing a bracelet. Okay, now the gauge makes sense. Oh, well, yeah, I guess it would. Yeah, I guess maybe that was a little confusing because I put that bracelet on just to show you that I had finished it. Um, it was one of the gals that took my class like 10 years ago for that. It was more than 10 years ago for that crystal spiral necklace. And she kind of, I don't know if she lost her supplies or what. And I ran into her not that long ago and she said, would you finish this for me. So I did. You know, it takes time. It's not a difficult stitch to do or weave, um, but it just takes time. It's very time consuming. But I'm glad I got that done. Hey, Carol. All right. Yeah. Okay. So I am I'm going to get it started, and then well, I'll show you. I'm going to have to move the camera to my bench vise because that is uh, permanently screwed on. Well, it's screwed onto my table, and I couldn't bring it over here. So I will have to get up at that point and bring the camera with me to show you the one step that is necessary. So we'll get started. Okay, for this project, you're going to need 16 gauge sterling or copper wire, a ruler, flush cutters, or a jeweler saw. That's up to you which one you want to use. A file. Um, I had originally used 8mm baling pliers, but I'm finding that that's not entirely necessary. A couple pairs of flat nose pliers, a half round plier, bench vise. I'm using lineman pliers. They are my husband's, but any well, I'll show those to you when I get over to the bench vise. Uh, and then some silver solder. You could either use uh, the paste solder or uh, whatever else solder, sheet or wire or whatever one. And then the normal torching supplies, a third hand, a ring mandrel, and a rawhide mallet. Those are all going to be in the handout that I have for you later. And I'll walk you through these steps. So I'm going to turn the camera down. Hopefully everything stays in place. All right. All right, so those were the sample rings. I'm going to put this one back on because I like this one. And I made this one that it can either fit my index finger or my thumb, which I think is kind of a nice size for a ring, either of those digits. They don't bother me. Sometimes the thumb rings will bother me if they're too wide. Okay, so I have got some 16 gauge wire. I have to move some stuff around here. One of the wheels came off of my favorite chair that I sit in. So I'm sitting in a different chair. I'm not real partial to it, but it doesn't roll around very well. But my husband will have to fix that for me later, hopefully. Hey, Deb. Okay, so what I did, now I just kind of guesstimated the wire length. There is excess. So I cut two pieces of 16 gauge copper, 5 inches long. On the copper, if you have a little more waste, it's really, doesn't really, it's not a big deal. On the silver, you don't really want to have much waste. So you still are going to have some, but I'll show you what I mean by cutting it the right length. Well, it's kind of a crapshoot. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me just show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to take my two pieces of wire and I'm going to anneal them. All right. And then quench bucket a little far away from me. You hear that little sizzle? Okay. So to make the knot wire, we're using the 2 pieces of wire here. And I was using the baling pliers to make my bend, but actually you can just do it with your fingers if you want to. You could either do it this way, just bending your wire like that, or you can just use your fingers and bend your wire like that. Maybe the baling pliers might be a little bit easier, but your fingers are good tools also. So you're going to bend your wire in 2 pieces like this. Now this is the tricky part, and that's why I annealed it. And I'm going to have this I've got pictures of it, step-by-step pictures of it in the handout, so you might be able to see this better. What I need to do is put these wires into each other. This is a little bit tricky, okay? But this is what you have to do. These are the 2 halves. And to do that, you're going to put this end into, like, underneath the curved part, and then you want the other part to go up and through that, and then you pull them together. Honestly, it is tricky. Thankfully, this went real easy, this one right now, but I've done them where the 2 pieces just keep falling. I can't get one end under the other and over the other at the same time. But this is the result that you want right here. And annealing helps that wire make those bends a lot easier, okay? So then you're going to take your 2 pairs of flat nose pliers and pull the wire. Hopefully you get them equal, which I just bent this. But what I mean is to grab both wires in your pliers. Okay. And it will only stretch so far before it work hardens too much to do it with your fingers or your hand tools. Okay. So they keep coming apart at this point. All right. So I'm going to anneal this again. All right. Oh, and I didn't mention my crappy utility pliers. I have these out whenever I solder because they're great to pick up hot objects and not ruin any of your other tools. Now I'm going to go over to my bench vise and stretch this out further. Now, ideally, I didn't position this wire too well because see how much longer this one is than this one? It would be better if they were all fairly equal. In the long run, it's probably not going to matter too much, but in sizing your ring, if you're making a larger ring, you might have needed that extra length to be more even. All right, so I'm going to move the camera. Bear with me here. And come over to my bench vise. Put my camera steady here, hopefully. Okay, I think you can see okay. Hopefully, if I don't get my arms in the way. This is the lineman pliers that I was talking about. These are big, chunky, heavy-duty pliers, and they have serrated surface inside. These are my husband's. He uses them for who knows what, but these are nice, heavy-duty pliers. So what I'm going to do, I want to protect my wire, so I'm going to, I've got a little piece of leather here that I'm going to put my wire in and then place that in the vise so I don't mar the wire. And then I'm going to do the same thing, put a little piece of leather in the pliers here to pull. That's exactly what I'm going to do, is pull this wire with my plier, these heavy duty pliers, and just pull it. Okay. And that tightens up the knot significantly. Now, I could be satisfied with this knot as it is, or I could try to tighten it just a bit. But when I do that, I would have to anneal it first. But when I do that, I risk breaking one of the wires or something, because I've done that. So I know that that is a possibility. So let's just say this is good just like this. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to move the camera back. Okay. You get to see my wrinkled hands. All right. Oh, where'd you go? Okay. All right. Okay. So survive that. All right. Okay. All right. So I've got my knot, like I said, but this is still, even though the wire is tightened, this could actually slip and come apart. So what I want to do is put a little dab of solder on the underside of the knot, so that way it won't come apart. All right, so I'm going to move the camera down a little. All right. I'm going to look at this again, and I want to try to straighten these wires as much as possible so that there's no gap between them. I'm going to snip off this extra long wire here because I don't need it there. Snip. Well, I'll talk about this in a second. The advantage of having longer wire than you actually need. I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. All right. So yeah, now you can see, since I moved those wires a little bit, you can see how there's play in there. We don't want that. We want to solder that up. So I'm deciding what's the top and what's the bottom. It really doesn't make any difference. They're pretty much the same on each side. Now I'm going to throw this into the pickle for just a minute, and then I'll solder that. It won't take long at all. Any questions up till now? Patty, you're asking about my dad? Okay, my dad is doing better for the time being. But being the stubborn man that he is, he opted to go home instead of to rehab. I told him I really thought he should go to rehab, but Mr. Independence wants to be on his own. So he lives by himself. He's 97 and a half. What could happen, right? Well, pretty much he gets around okay by himself, but uh, he's all set up as far as safety in the house. He uses his walker all the time. And, he's got the guardrails in the bathroom and the toilet rails and the bed rails. And, um, you know, he can maneuver pretty well. His balance is bad. That's his biggest problem is his balance. But, he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And one of the things you do for that is reduce your sodium, watch what you're eating. Well, he doesn't really want to watch what he eats. And, I can't blame him. At 97, I sure as hell would want to eat what I want to eat. But anyway, that's, what's going on with him right now. But I got a call yesterday morning and he had fallen. He was making himself some oatmeal and he fell and he couldn't get up off the floor. So, it's a 20-minute drive to his house and I had to have my husband come because I can't pick him up. And we got him up off the floor and I reminded him that maybe it was not a great choice of coming home instead of going to rehab. So, but he's a very stubborn man. You look up the word stubborn in the dictionary, and his picture is there. It's just that much. So anyway, it's a day by day thing with him. I can never really plan 100% on what I'm doing because I don't know if he's going to need me. So it's just the way it is. You live that long, it's a blessing and a curse. So it is. It's very hard. Okay, so back to the ring. Thanks for asking. Um, okay, Mary, you did miss a few crucial things, but you know what? Stick with it if you can, and then you can watch the replay later on. Uh, that'll help. That'll help a lot to see what we're doing here. Thanks for joining us. All right, I'm going to get this thing out of the pickle. It's not super clean, but it's clean enough for me to put that little solder drop on there. Okay. All right, let me turn the camera down. Okay. I have stuff all over the place. All right. All right. Just clean this off a bit. It's clean enough. All right. So I'm going to lay this down on my soldering board. And I don't really have to hold it down, but I'm going to just for the heck of it. I'm going to flux this. Little spray flux there. Grab my trusty tooth. Where's my tweezers? Here's my tweezers. And put my solder down. Now you could use paste solder in here if you wanted to. It really is up to you. I did buy the Peppy Tools solder, the paste solder combo when I was in Tucson, and I really like it. I've only used it a couple of times so far, but I like it. This does not have any of the bad stuff. There's no cadmium in here, which is well, I'm sure there's a lot of bad stuff in here, but as far as the really harmful to breathe and stuff like that, it's much safer to use. So that's that. All right, so now I'll get my torch. Hopefully not catch anything on fire. solder on my pick here. Where'd it go? I guess I dropped it somewhere else. Okay, just that one area is all it needs. Okay, and that's the knot is soldered together. Now on the copper, when you use silver solder, that silver is always going to show on there. And I'm going to try to, first I'm going to pickle this, and then I'm going to clean it off with a silicone uh, wheel. It's got grit in it, which will help get this off. And then if I can't get all of it off, which I rarely do, then I will plate it with some old pickle and a little piece of steel wool in the old pickle, and that plates the copper, uh, and it looks pretty darn good when that's done. Okay, so I'm going to put this back in the pickle, and I think what I'll do, since that's in there for a couple of minutes, I'll start a silver ring from the beginning, so that way those who just joined us can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to cut, this is my 16 gauge wire. There's my ruler. Okay, I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not 100% accurate. Take 2 pieces of that. All right. I will anneal these. Move these 2 up here. Put one backwards. Okay. Okay. All right. Mary, I cut these 5 inches long. All right. So I'm going to, well, I'll use the baling pliers. Bend that. Okay. And just gonna squeeze those in just a bit. Okay. This is always the moment of truth. And this is 16 gauge also, Mary. Okay, so I've got my 2 pieces. And I'm going to put this end through this end, through the rounded end. And then, this is the tricky part. Okay, those go through there. And then these come up. Once you get past that, it's all pretty easy. grab on to these wires. Excuse me. And then grab onto these wires. Kind of looks like a paper clip almost. And then I'm pulling the sides. I'm going to anneal them again. Clench. I'm not going to move the camera back over to the other place. I will try to hand pull these a little bit more, and then I'll just get up and do the pull. But you really can't do that much unless you are really strong, which I am not. All right, so I'm going to go back over to the bench vise and stick these wires in there and pull with the lineman pliers, and then I'll come right back. And the knot should be significantly tighter. You can catch that step on the replay if you want to. Anybody that joined in late, they can replay that and they'll see it. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Gonna have to anneal it again because just that little bit of me pulling on it hardened the wire up. So I'm gonna redo this and then take it straight over. Okay, I'll be right. Okay, all right. So the knot's significantly smaller now. And I'm going to put this in the pickle, and then I'm going to solder the two sides together. In the meantime, I'll take the copper one out. Okay. All right, I'm going to rub this one up. I have a brass brush over here. Let's see where. Just cleaning that up a little bit. I've got a lot of solder on this copper, unfortunately. Look. All right, so what I'm going to do is take one of my white silicone pumice wheels. And I want my face mask and my dust shield or face shield. It's a good look, isn't it? You need to take care of yourself, guys. You don't want to be breathing stuff or have things fly in your eyes or your face. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. You don't want to stay on the piece too much with these wheels because they're pretty abrasive and you can dig yourself a little groove right into your metal if you stay in one place too long with these. But it does a pretty quick cleanup. And then figures I'd have an itch on my face while I have all this crap on me. I think I could have unpacked these from Tucson. There's these little tiny silicone things that can get in tight spaces. They're great. Polishing pins is what they're called. There's different grits. Not holding it right there. But that can get into little tight areas a lot easier. And then the rest, I'll just put it in the pickle with the steel wool to plate it, the stuff that I can't get off. Okay. Actually, I'm still going to solder this because I've got to do the ends. So I don't have to clean it meticulously right now. Okay. All right, so the next step, this has been soldered. This one has been soldered. And the next thing is to make it into a ring. You can do this, you can make a bracelet with these too, with heavier gauge wire. I have not tried that, but Deb Mauser suggested that these would make a nice bangle, and I'm sure that they would. I just haven't gotten that far to try one. So I would imagine you would really have to do some annealing several times to get the knot small enough. I would say probably 14 gauge wire would be what I would use for a bangle, but you know, maybe if you like thin bangles, the 16 gauge would be all right. But to me, that's a little thin. All right, I'm losing my train of thought here. All right, so I have a very beat up ring stick, and all I'm going to do is form, let's see, form the wire around. I'm going to make this a 9. This is the point where having a little extra wire might be helpful so that you could pull that wire around easier to form the right size that you want. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but um, when you have shorter lengths of wire, it's a little bit harder to work with. All right, so basically, all right, I was going for a 9. Try to round that out a little bit. Some half round pliers are handy in this too, so that you can try to squeeze your wires together so that there's no space and you keep them rounded. All right, so now I have to mark where I'm going to separate these wires. Well, it's a 9.5. I'll leave it at that. So here's my knot here. I want to cut over here. Can you see that okay? All right. I want to separate my wires there. Now you could use a jeweler saw. That would make your cleanest cut. But the wire's annealed. It's kind of soft. I don't know if it would go flopping around or not. But what I'm going to do is just cut them. I'll detach them thusly. And turn my cutter around for the next one. Can you see that okay? Cut that wrong. Okay, so now I have my 4 wires. This one is not a flush cut, darn it. Oh, I didn't turn my plier around when I did that. All right. All right. So third hand set up here, and I'm going to splay these 2 wires apart here, pull them apart a little bit, because you're going to solder them one at a time. Still not a flush cut. I want to get the ever so tiny. Okay, and you could take a file and kind of just give it a little tiny file there. Just enough to help it bring it together a little better. Close the joint a little bit. Okay. Now,
Just going to concentrate on the one right this minute to solder that one. Still not a good join. Damn. All right, we'll try that. Still not perfect, but enough for demonstration purposes. We'll go with that logic. So I'm going to just grab one end in here and get my flux. A little piece of solder. I only want one piece of solder, but I blow them off all the time with the flame. All right. Now we'll fix the other end, solder the other end, or the other side. So I'll try to get those as well. This wire is so soft right now since I annealed it. I think what I'll do is, well, maybe that's not a good idea. I don't know. I kind of bent it a little bit. Not to worry. I can straighten it out after I've soldered it. Okay. A little flux. Where's that other piece of solder? I guess it blew off. As usual. Tweezers here. It's amazing how fast your stuff piles up and makes a huge mess. All right. I love this titanium pick from Peppy Tools also. It was another treat. I treated myself to. All right, so being that this is copper, there's a lot of solder on here. I'll clean that all off, but I want to reshape this a little bit. And then I'm going to throw it back in the pickle. And then we'll do the cleanup on it. But it is soldered. Okay. Messy. Okay, that's back in there. Oh, I can get the silver out of there. Well, you know, I already did one earlier. Well, no, I guess I could get that out. Copper tongs. I'm going to stop here in a minute and see if there's any questions. If I've lost anybody. Oh, this is the one I need to solder the loops together, the knot together. Okay. All right. Let me see if there's any questions. Deb Torelli said she just got those, the polishing pins. If so, yeah, they're pretty nice. Oh, thanks, Sally. My heart pin was made by my friend. It's one of my glass hearts, and she did a nice setting around it, and I absolutely love it. Let's see here. Sherry said she made a cuff and it was pretty tricky. In the same kind of method, Sherry, I would imagine it's pretty much the same principle. Thank you, Janet. Do you think using a cutting disc would work rather than cutters? Possibly so. I didn't try that. You know, I did buy some cutting discs not too long ago, and I have not used them. So maybe this would be a good opportunity to try that. I think I would put that ring in maybe a wooden dowel, something that fit, and then use that cutting disc, maybe. I'm thinking. Yeah, Marianne, I'll put the oh, Tammy put it on here. Where you get the polishing pins. Yeah, that's exactly where I got mine from Rio Grande. Um, they come in a 2 millimeter and a 3 millimeter size. I think the if you had to choose one or the other, I think I would choose the 2 millimeter because they're going to get in a little bit tighter spots. Um, so yeah, but I will add that on there. Okay, Mary says, I got lost where you made the knot with the two U-shaped wires. That is tricky, Mary. It is, and the handout that I'm going to be putting out for everybody is going to be more helpful to see what I actually did. It's the two, I don't know, like rounded wires, the horseshoe or paperclip shape, whatever you want to call it, the two halves, and basically you're feeding two ends down in. Well, I just can't explain how you do it, but two of the ends go down under the one loop, and then the other two ends go up over the opposing loop. That's probably the best way I can describe that, but it takes a little futzing around to actually get it. But once you understand the concept, I mean, you know what you have to do. It's just trying to get in there with your fingers and accomplish that. So, yeah, Suni, I'm just using whatever solder, like an easy solder, either wire, chip, or paste. Uh, just depends on what you want to use. Just try not to use too much of it. That is really the key. You basically are just trying to tack at least one end of the loop. I'm going to do that right now on this one, so that way it won't come apart. Okay. All right. So glasses back on, and there really isn't a top or a reverse side. They're pretty much both the same. But you're just going to solder. Let's just say we're going to solder on the back side. We'll choose this to be the back side. Okay. flux in there. I could maybe just lay my solder right there. I'm used to picking it up and pick soldering, but I don't think it really matters. As long as you get it in there. There she blows. Maybe I will put it on the other side. Oh God, I melted my wire. Damn it. Oh, I took my eyes off of it. Well, there's no point in soldering that because I just wrecked it. Damn. I took my eyes away from my flame and fried it. Damn. Well, shit happens. Yep, yep, yep. You saw it here, folks. Well, maybe I could make a little baby ring. Cut this part off. Can I do it? See, that's what happens. When you should leave well enough alone. You really should leave well enough alone. It actually was tacked right here. The solder did work on the one side, and as long as that's holding, you can't see what I'm doing. As long as it's tacked on one side, it's got the wires connected. So I really didn't have to do that, but I did. Oh God. Use it for shop. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's never a total loss when you ruin a piece. Uh, you can use it for something else. I don't know about the fried part. It's pretty fried. Uh, but oh well. Listen, Max's fingers are bigger than mine. Even his pinkies. Balls, that's right. Always good for balls. All right. All right, so I ruined that part, but I have another one that is ready to just be soldered. The little things like that. So I think I'll go ahead and finish this one off. And yeah, I can actually, if my solder skills were really good where you couldn't see any solder seams at all, I could solder this on the side, make my solder seam on the side, but I'll futz around with it. And I don't think it's a total waste. It's just embarrassing to do this live. When you do it by yourself, it's like, oh well, nobody saw that. But when you do it in front of a bunch of people, it's a little different feeling. Yeah, I mean, it still would make a ring. It's just going to have the join on the side rather than the bottom. It could work. It could work. But I think I fused these two pieces of wire fused a little bit. But that's okay too. But yeah, it's not a total waste or loss, whatever. But one that I would have rather not shared with you. All right, I'll go ahead and that's true. Thank you, guys. I know that you know that everybody does this stuff. It's just, you know, you'd rather not have anybody else see you screw up. All right. Let's carry on with this other one. And let's see here. All right. So I'm going to move the camera down. And that's still warm, but not hot. Okay. I don't need that for anything. I'm all flustered now. All right. What am I doing? All right. I want to solder these ends together. Pull this apart a little bit. All right. Okay. Find my little solder ball here. Yes, this is a knot ring on my pointer. I made this one yesterday. That's too close. You can't see it. Okay. Yeah, that's one. Thank you, Paulin. Well, I've flubbed up enough in front of you guys. You guys already know uh, stuff happens. In real life, it happens. All right. Where am I at? Let's try not to look away and keep your flame going. Okay. One down, one to go. And then I'll clean up the copper one that's in the pickle right now. I won't have time to plate it here while we're doing the live, but I'll tell you what I'm doing and then I'll show it to you later. This one seems a little bit flush. In the frame. All right. Solder. It's right here. Okay. I think This one's going to be harder to keep together. I honestly think one wire is a little bit, just a skosh longer than the other. So they may not seat real well, but I'll play with that on the ring mandrel after it's clean, but it's got a lot of gook on it. So get this cleaned. All right. All right, so here we're back to the copper one. I'm going to try to clean off this solder, the excess solder. Put my mask back on and my visor. And a shield, face shield. And that was just a tremendous amount of excess solder on here. I love these white polishing wheels. I just love them. They make short work of a lot of jobs. All right, this still doesn't have all of the solder out, but it's not bad. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do with this now, can you see this okay, or is it fuzzy? I'm going to put this in pickle. Actually, I will do it. I just have to go get a piece of steel wool. I can do that right here and plate it for you so you see what I'm talking about. So I have my pickle heated up, and I'm going to take a piece of old, kind of used up, it doesn't have to be old, but I mean, instead of throwing your scrap, your leftover pieces of steel wool away, you can save them for a pickle bath. I'm going to put that in there. Now, this pickle is not going to be used again. So I'm going to put my ring in there. And I like to kind of bury it in the steel wool. And I'm going to keep that on, I've got it on a cup warmer to keep the pickle hot. So I keep the pickle hot while I'm plating as well. It, you know, it's supposed to be old pickle that's starting to turn blue a little bit, but I've had success with newer pickle as well. I think it just really matters getting that steel. You could put like steel wire. Uh, I put steel wool. I put a piece of steel wool in the pickle, Judy. So it's just, I always save my little bits and pieces of that. You could even use your broken saw blades or anything that you know is steel wire, that will work too. Um, well, I never have, Tammy. I've never added peroxide and it's always worked good. So um, I guess I should try that and see if it's even better. But honestly, I've never even heard that. So that's something new to find out about. All right, here's the other ring, and I'm going to give this a little brush with my wire brush and water. Got over to the side. Probably can't see that. Just going to clean it up a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to polish this up a little. Kind of bothers me that this is so splayed apart. See if I can knock it together with the rawhide hammer. I think that did anything. That's a little better, but it's still farther apart than I would like. Still, it's not bad. But I'll just give this a quick polish, and then we'll check on the copper ring that's in the plating solution. The solder really didn't need any cleanup. Well, maybe it could have used a little. But then, I would finish it off putting it in the tumbler and get a nice high shine with that. But I like to get in between the wires of the knot with this little 3M bristle brushes. Okay, so it's got a nice Nice shine to it, but the tumbler will make it even better. Yeah, I really think that one of my wires is just slightly, I didn't snip off one of them equally. You can see it. One wire is a little bit sticking out a little bit farther. This is a ring I would keep for myself. I wouldn't try to sell it. When it has any kind of defect, they become mine. So, but they work. It works. You could probably wear them as stack rings too if you wanted a few of them. I don't know. I guess it just depends on what you like. All right. Usually, yeah, I can see I needed solder cleanup right here. Well, I can still do that. Usually when I put stuff in the plating solution, I leave it in there for a good 10 minutes. Longer if you have time. And then I would patina, add your patina if you wanted to do that. There again, I'm just knocking off that little bit of solder. I didn't really look at it closely when I started to polish. But then there it is. Needed a little something. But that's nice, when you're working with silver, you don't really see the silver solder unless you glob it on, but not like you see it on the copper, of course. But uh, there is copper solder out there. If you're not aware, there is copper solder, but uh, it's still silver. When you put it on your piece, it still turns silver. It looks kind of brown when you buy the copper wire, but it turns silvery. So you still have to plate it. The idea is to not get so much on that it's an issue. That you don't have a lot of cleanup. And like I said, this is going to go into the tumbler and it will really take on a nice shine. Okay, so let's check on this. And what I've found, once I put this in the pickle, in the plating solution, which is basically old pickle and steel wool, that is pretty much spent after that. You're not really going to get any more use out of that particular pickle, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think that would be all they wrote on that stuff. Because then I'll take out you see how the steel wool changed color? It like took all the uh, black or gray out of the steel wool, and now it's kind of orangey, coppery, browny, yucky. And now the pickle is no longer blue. That's gone. And it stinks too. There's something about that reaction um, that makes it smell. Hey, Deb, glad to have you. How was Ant-Man? Did your grandkids enjoy it? Deb Henready took her grandkids to see Ant-Man today. All right. All right, so I'm going to clean this up with my brass brush over here and some water. A little scrub. Oh, good. Yeah, I'll have to take Max to see that. Max is in Disney World right now with his mother. They went down for a few days. So, okay. So this is the ring that had that silver solder all over it. And just a few minutes in the plating solution uh, really covered that up, covered up the silver. It plated the copper. And what I'll do next, which I don't have here with me right now, but what I'll do next is I'll put this in liver of sulfur, clean it up, and then put it in the tumbler. So, um, Tammy, I offhand I don't know the name of the pickle, but I got it from a pool place. But I don't think it said pH down on it, but it's probably something just like it. Um, but I know it was from a pool place. I split the jar with my friend Rhonda, and I just put mine in just a generic jar, so it's got no label on it. But I got it from a pool store, and I'll try to find out the name of it, but it's probably pretty much the same. But I'll try to find that out. Suni, I would try to get away from using Sparex, uh, or Sparex, however you pronounce it. I don't think that that is good stuff anymore. I mean, maybe it's always been that way. I know that that's something that a lot of people used for many, many years, and I think the chemicals in there are much worse than this other stuff. I'll try to find some information about it, but I think you'd be better off getting something a little bit different, like maybe one of these pool chemicals, the pH down or something like that. I think it's a uh, safer chemical. So, um, but yeah, I'll try to find that out. But yeah, I mean, this is the one that we just plated. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. But just yeah, it's just I don't know. I had it and years ago when I first started out, and then I was informed, that it wasn't really a good thing to be using. So, uh, oh well, maybe Deborah's saying I think Spirex changed its formula. Well, hopefully they did and made it better. I really don't know. So, it's all about to me anymore. It's about safety, and using the best thing. If I guess as we get older, we worry about that stuff more than when we were younger. Uh, yeah, citric acid is good too. You know, I've really found, Joni Kisro was using uh, maybe pH down or something. I don't know, but until I saw her using, I mean, she put her piece in the pickle and like in 2 minutes or less, I mean, it was like perfectly clean. So I asked her about it, and I went and got what she was using, and I'll try to get the name of it. It really works fast, works good. Um, so yeah, I guess what vinegar and salt. I guess whatever gives you good results. I like fast, and fast as long as it's relatively safe. So just have to be careful. Yep, that's true. All right, so that's the knot rings, folks. I hope you enjoyed watching this. They're yeah, I don't know, Suni. I don't know that much about other ones, but um I'll see what I can find out. But yeah, I mean, I think these are great fun. They're not hard to do. You saw I got it done. The main thing is don't fry your metal, and make sure that you have some kind of a bench vise, a good sturdy one. I have a portable one. I think it's a Eurotool one that clamps to my table. That is not strong enough. Your wires will just pull out when you try using them. So get yourself uh, use a bench vise that is mounted on your work surface, your workbench or whatever, because you really need to pull with those pliers to stretch the metal into the knot. So I will put out the handout in a few minutes. Um, I don't really have any Amazon links, I don't think, to share with any of the project or products that I used. I think pretty much all of you have these things by now. I do want to talk a minute about the bracelet that I'm going to do kits for. I am going to post, I guess maybe later, I'll post a picture of the project and how much they're going to cost. And I'm thinking that I'm going to have about enough material for 36 bracelets. If you want them, to be fair, I mean, because I know there was a lot of interest. To be fair, what I want to do is when I make that post, uh, if you want one, you must message me with your PayPal address, and that will hold your bracelet kit. I'm going to make it where you can only have one right now because a few people asked if they could buy multiples. And just to make it fair and everybody get one that wants one, I think you'll just get one, but indicate if you would like an extra one. If I do end up having extra kits, then you will get an extra kit. But I think that's the only fair way to do it because if you post it on here, I want a kit, I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to look at the posts that I put specifically for those memory wire bangles. So they're going to be $38. That is going to include the shipping, so that's it. And you will have all the components in there. The bracelets are on memory wire, and there's a piece of bolo cord in the middle, and I am putting all the bolo cord on each wire so that you don't have to mess with that because that is a bitch. Plain and simple, it's a bitch. So the kits will come with the cord on them already, and all you do is have to put your beads on them. They're fun, and I think you're gonna like it. So usually I don't mess with memory wire, but I just thought these were really cute, and I got a lot of good feedback on them. So maybe I'll post that this evening. Maybe I don't know, after supper or something. I'll post that and the rules again, and we'll see what happens. So until then, thanks for watching, for joining me, and I hope you make some little knot rings. And if you do, please post them in the group. I always enjoy to see what you guys make. So I'll see you guys later. The handout's coming. Bye bye.